Alright, so today we're going over another really amazing prompt specifically to help us find the gap within our niche for something that we can either create or sell. So the prompt looks something like this. It's super beginner friendly and you can copy it from the description of the video or the pinned comment, but this is what it looks like after you paste it in. It basically states, you are my niche gap strategist. Your job is to analyze my niche, audience, competitors, content, offers, buyers' frustrations, and to find a gap nobody is serving well, then turn that gap into content angles, offers, and a positioning strategy. So the whole point is to basically analyze our current content, our current niche, and our product, and to see where we can close the gap into an area that is untapped at this point. So the rest of the prompt you can go over and edit if you like, but as I said, it's incredibly beginner friendly and ready to use. All you have to do at this point is simply hit enter, and then it's going to start asking us a series of intake questions. These intake questions are designed to have ChatGPT get a better understanding of who we are and what we're trying to do, so that way it can actually help us find that specific thing that we can be bridging the gap with. So I'm going to go ahead and answer these intake questions super quickly. That way I'm not going to spend the entire video going one by one and waiting for it to respond. We'll go over each of the answers super quickly once I'm done and take a look at the results. That way we can actually just get on with it so you guys can get to actually utilizing this for your business. So I'll be right back. Alright, so I went ahead and answered these series of questions following the same niche that we've been using in a lot of our recent videos. So in this context, we're basically talking about anxiety recovery and the fact that our product is a guide for that. So, and we also have a free lead magnet in this case. So what niche are you in or thinking about entering? I stated anxiety recovery, following the same light. Then it says, who is the exact audience? I said anxiety sufferers hoping to recover. Take note, however, when you guys are answering this, try and answer as descriptively, honestly, and as in much detail as possible. That way you can get the most out of the prompt. I'm using this like fake product, fake niche, just to see where we go with it and to give you guys an example. But you'll get a lot more out of this prompt if you're, one, honest, and two, more descriptive than I am to get, help it understand exactly what you're doing. And for instance, it's going to ask us what our competitors are. I don't know since I'm not actually doing this. So just take note of that. So it asks, what problem does this audience want solved most? I said to recover, or at least understand recovery. Next it asks, what content, products, or services already exist in this niche? I said not sure, but I have a free mini guide, a full paid guide, and looking for more ways to monetize. It then asks, name 3 to 5 competitors. That's what I was saying earlier. I said not sure. It asks, what do you notice people complaining about in this niche? I went ahead and just said trust. Then asked, what do you think is overdone, generic, boring, or poorly explained in this niche? I just said gatekeeping and over-the-top claims. I'm just assuming. What skills, experience, perspective, or proof do you have? I said my personal recovery and helping a few others recover around me. Then it asks, do you want the gap to lead to content, a digital product, a service, a community, coaching, affiliate content, or a mix? I said a mix, or whatever helps me make more profit in the long run. So this is an important question that you should, be very honest with. That way it'll actually help you close the gap on whatever it is you specifically want. Then finally it asks, what claims, topics, audience, or angles do you want to avoid? I just said guaranteed health claims following the niche that we're discussing. So it goes on and then it starts phase 2. So the niche landscape map, it goes over our entire niche. It goes onto the current niche map and it says the main audience segments, and it goes over all of the different factors that play into anxiety, common pain points of what we can actually mention. For instance, why do I still feel this way? Why am I broken? Is this permanent? Etc., etc. Common content angles gives us a list of common content angles. Common offers, for instance, guides, courses, coaching calls, group programs, membership communities, symptom explanation content, meditation, grounding resources, and therapy adjacent self-help programs. Common promises, it goes over all of it. Common mistakes creators make. See how it's actually breaking down all kinds of different aspects of our niche that we're discussing so we can better understand it and how we can attack it to make more money in our field. So this is what buyers are already getting, gives us the list, what buyers are still missing, and this is where we're probably going to try to fill the gap. So a practical implementation map, honest expectation setting, what to do when symptoms return, trustworthy disclaimers, recovery without miracle claims, etc., etc. So the opportunity breakdown. Obvious opportunities. Trust first, anxiety recovery content. DPDR specific beginner education. Implementation, not reassurance content. Low pressure product funnel. recovery guide plus practical worksheets, and a buyer FAQ that handles skepticism. Then goes into the saturated angles of what we should be avoiding, I would assume. So, for instance, these are ones that are done quite a bit. Underexplained problems, how to actually stop checking, how to live normally while symptoms are present, how to avoid turning recovery into another obsession, how to trust advice, etc., etc. Underserved buyer types, people who are skeptical but desperate, people who have watched hundreds of videos but still cannot implement, people with DPDR plus health anxiety, etc., etc. Then trust gaps, format gaps, price gaps, experience gaps. It goes over everything so that we know exactly where we need to hit in our niche. And then finally, we get the 10 possible niche gaps. It goes over 10 of these that you can take a look at for your own personal specific niche. Now, this is probably the most important part of this prompt in my experience, or at least, from my perspective, because this is where it's actually going to rank the gaps and tell you based on its own assessment which one would be best and where you should actually attack first. So you see here, it'll rank it on urgency, buyer specificity, competition weakness, easy to explain, content potential, product potential, trust potential, monetization, skill fit, validation difficulty, and a total to basically tell us which one is the winner. Then we see here best gap for fast content growth, symptom fear translation gap, because symptom-based hooks are highly searchable and emotionally urgent. And he goes over all of the gaps that we can hit and the positioning strategy that we should take, what we can claim in our actual thing, the niche angle, so practical anxiety recovery without the hype. That's our that would be, I guess, our niche that we're closing in on. The enemy is not therapy, medication, doctors, or other creators. That way we're going to try to not create this type of hatred toward other resources, because that would not be great, right? And then you get phase 6, goes content strategy for the gap. It gives us a whole strategy for this specifically. And if you guys haven't noticed yet, this prompt is extremely in-depth. It's really going to help you find that gap in whatever niche you're using and implement it. Like, we go on and on here. It's going into a whole content strategy that you can utilize, including beginner education posts you can utilize, and we go down and down and down. And then finally, the product offer bridge posts, how you can actually implement whatever product you're trying to sell and which one would be best. Then it gives us the offer strategy for the gap. So an anxiety recovery implementation workbook, DPDR beginner clarity kit, recovery response scripts, and all kinds of other stuff that you can actually use to sell in your niche based on what is missing in that niche. So this is our 7-day validation plan. This is just basically to create content and then see if it actually is working, and to see if we are closing in on the gap and getting more engagement or sales, depending what it is we're trying to do. And if that doesn't work, you basically just come back to ChatGPT, tell it, and it'll try and fix the plan to basically adjust the plan to fix whatever the issue is there. So we get 10 research questions. So for instance, what part of anxiety recovery feels most confusing right now? We can do this and ask people if we wanted to basically, test the field. Here's us 5 audience poll questions, 5 post hooks to test, 3 offer validation messages, and metrics to track. This is specifically to see whether it's working or not based on all this, with all kinds of different pass-fail thresholds. And then finally, we get the actual final niche blueprint, which is the whole point of this entire prompt. So it tells us the implementation gap for anxiety and DPDR recovery positioned through trust first, no hype guidance. Anxiety and DPDR sufferers, like our audience, our main problem, why existing solutions fall short, first 10 content ideas, first offer to test, first lead magnet, etc., etc. And then the biggest assumption to verify, that your audience wants implementation tools, enough to pay, not just reassurance content, and then building from there. So as you can see, this prompt is extremely in-depth, and it would be even more in-depth if you actually gave more information than I did. So this just gives you the gist. So just when you answer the intake questions, try to be as descriptive as possible and as honest as possible, like I've said about 100 times now. So, if you guys want the prompt, you can get it from the description of the video or the pinned comment. Just copy it, hit paste into ChatGPT, hit enter, answer the intake, and then you're good to go. And then while you're going through this process of testing out the gap, just come back to the chat and tell it how it's going, and it can assess whether or not it's working out for you and how you can adjust. So hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe, and have a nice day.